Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to look about a topic called animation. And under this topic, we are going to look at two things. That's on our learning objective. We are going to define animation and list types of animation. So let's get started as we look at these two things. So the first thing we are going to look at is the definition of animation. What do we mean by animation? To animate object, what does it mean? Now, animation is a method by which still images are manipulated to appear as moving images. Like the images you are seeing under this picture is a picture, but when we use computer software or hardware to move it and it appears as if it's a real object, then we can call it animation. So in this topic today, you will learn the different types of animation that we have, so that when you see them, when you are watching maybe cartoon or motion graphics or the likes, you'll be able to tell which one is one, because most of us we've watched most of this animation, but we don't know what they are called. So that's the reason for this topic. So let's continue. So I believe we understand the definition of animation. Animation is a method by which still images are manipulated to appear as moving images. That is, picture drawn or like a Barbie doll in a stop motion, whereby we move it and give the effect when the viewers are watching as if it is really moving. That's what we call animation. So let's look at the types of animation. There's one we call traditional. In a traditional animation, objects are drawn on a celluloid transparent paper to create the animated sequence. If you look at this picture under this, you see that they are in a layers. Now, celluloid is like a film or maybe transparent paper. Now, let me show you something so that you get what I'm talking about. Now, look at this image. You will see that the image was drawn on a paper. That's what we are calling or talking about when we talk about celluloid. Now, this image, if we want it to appear as if maybe the robot is dancing, we have to draw it in sequence, one after the other. So when they now use maybe computer hardware to move it, it will appear as if it were real. So let's look at another picture in a traditional animation. If you look at this traditional animation, we see that they are all black because they use it in the olden days to animate objects. Now, look at this for example. If you want this character to move, to raise up his hand, raise up the leg, and appear to maybe as if it is moving, we have to draw the picture like this picture you are seeing now, about 5. So this traditional animation, you see contact, low, passing, eye contact. So that's how they will move it in sequence and it will appear as if it is real. Now, the viewer only see one picture, but at the background, the animator has many pictures, and when they move it together, it appears as if it's one picture, and it will show to the viewer as if it is a real image moving. So that's how they animate. All right, let's look at another one. This one is called 2D animation. We can call it vector-based animation. It's advanced in technology that made them to create this kind of animation. Now, in vector-based animation is a motion and is controlled by vectors rather than pixels. Now, if you look at vectors, for example, vectors have color, unlike the former one, that is the traditional one that is drawn in black. Now, the advantage of this is that most of the cartoon that you watch, like maybe on Jim Jam, you will see that they are always 2D. What is D in the 2D? It stands for two-dimensional. That is, you can only see one view of the character. You cannot see the back, you cannot see maybe the side. You only see maybe the front view. Any place the face That's what you see. And if you look at this character, you see that is a character that want to move. So they have to draw it with the same height, the same picture, but the only thing that we can see that is different here is the leg and maybe the hand. So when they move it together, it will appear as if it's moving. So that this type of animation is called 2D animation, two-dimensional animation, whereby you only see one side of the picture. You cannot see the back. You cannot move as if maybe when you are maybe on top of a building and you are looking at somebody, where you can see the back, the front, the side view, and so on and so forth. Okay, moving on. And this 2D animation too, if you look at this picture, is drawn and we can only see one side, nothing like back. So that's why we call it 2D animation. Now let's look at another one. This type of animation, is called 3D motion. Now in the 3D motion, animated object appears to be a real object because they use a real computer software, unlike hardware they use in maybe traditional or 2D to move the picture. This one they use a software like maybe Cinema 4D, Maya, and the likes to move the object. But the difference here is that they have to create it like a real object first before they can move it. So in 3D animated movies, the animator uses a program, that is a software, to move the character's body parts around. So if you watch most of the cartoon like Killer Bean and the likes today, you will see that they appear as if it is a real object, whereby you can see the front, side view, back view, and the likes. So when you are watching that kind of cartoon, even me, I enjoy that type of cartoon because they look like real object. So when you are watching that type of cartoon or animation, it is called 3-dimensional motion because they move it, they can talk, they can wave, they can move their hand, they can move their legs, and so on and so forth. But they cannot do that in 2-dimensional or traditional animation. You can only see one side. So that's the advantage of using or creating animation today in 3D. All right, let's look at another one. Now this particular one is called motion graphics. Now motion graphics are digital graphics that create the illusion of motion, usually for advertisement or title sequence in films. Now at times when you are watching maybe thumbnail on social media, like maybe on YouTube, or maybe at times they send it like emojis, you see that there are some that can move. So they use a particular software to move them, and that type of animation is called motion graphics, like the one you are seeing on the screen here. Now in film too, the movement of the title sequence in film, whereby the cast name will be shown and other things, or the title of the film, the way it's flipping is called motion graphics. Now in motion graphics, they can animate text, they can animate maybe objects, like what type of object, like maybe image, like 2D image, and so on and so forth. Now the advantage of this is that it is very useful in advertisement, because you can use it to advertise and pass information across to the people. So that's the advantage of this type of animation. So today, as you can see, we've talked about 4 types of animation. Now the last one is called stop motion. Now in a stop motion, you can carry any picture, like maybe if you want your Barbie doll to move, you will take the picture maybe layer by layer or in sequence. You take it one after the other. Then after that, you will now use a software called, if you go online, you will see many software stop motion. You can use that. You add all the pictures that you have taken, as you are moving the object. Then that stop motion will do the rest. It will move it as if it is a real image. It will animate it for you. So today, remember I said we are looking at, under our learning objective today, we look at definition of animation, and we look at types of animation, and we said animation is a method by which still images are manipulated to appear as moving images. And under that, we look at the types of animation. We say we have traditional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, motion graphics, and the last one is called stop motion. And we said traditional objects are drawn on celluloid transparent paper to create animated sequence. And this is a simple picture of it. That is, you have to draw it in many ways before it can appear as a moving object. Then we talk about two-dimensional objects that we can also call vector-based. In vector-based, the motion is controlled by vectors rather than in pixels. Like in 3D motion, it is controlled by pixels. That's why you can see all the views like back, front, left, right, and so on and so forth. So this is a 2D or two-dimensional animation. So you can draw it in vector, convert it to maybe bitmap, and before you manipulate it. All right. Now, this is another picture. You see that most of the cartoon we watch, like Jim Jam and some 2D cartoon that even most of us don't like today again, they are all 2D animation. This picture you are seeing is a good example. Then we look at the third type of animation, which is 3D motion, three-dimensional motion. Like the picture you are seeing here is a 3D motion or animation. Now, in 3D, animated movies, the animator uses a program to move the character's body part around. So that's why you can see the back, the tail is wagging, the tail is moving the head at the same time, because they use a software to move the character's body, and it will appear as if it is a real image. All right. Then we look at motion graphics, what that they use in YouTube thumbnails or maybe TikTok thumbnails and maybe advertisement or title sequence in films. Now, this is a digital graphics that create the illusion of motion. And I believe we understand what motion is. Moving it as if we are animating it. So this is what we are looking at today, and I believe now after the end of this class, when you look at the maybe cartoon, the character, and so on and so forth, you can say this is traditional animation, this is two-dimensional animation, this is 3D animation, and this is motion graphics. That's the essence of learning this, to be able to identify one from the other. So we'll continue on stream. Thank you everyone for listening.